Hey everybody, I'm going to talk to you about free speech. It seems to be a good time to talk about it because some people are overjoyed that Twitter or Facebook has, banned President Trump, at least for the next few days, President Trump from posting. And some will rejoice about that because they just don't want to even see that crap. Right? I get that. And then there are people who are fans of the president. Ones who are looking for alternative platforms, for free speech, which is code for right-wing, I think in most cases. But let's talk about what is free speech actually. Well, in the days of social media, it's completely different from the essence of the concept of free speech as promised and guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution and other bits. So let's talk about free speech before social media. Anyone remember before social media? Well, if you write a column, in the newspaper and you say, well, everyone knows who's saying it, it's their opinion, you write a letter to the editor, or maybe you see the person in public and you have it out with them. Which again, in public, if you talk to a friend one-on-one about your opinion, you can either feel free to express yourself or not. Your friend will either accept or not. And that's an expression of free speech that is direct, one-on-one, personal. Okay? And you go from talking to a friend or family member to maybe a coworker or maybe a stranger on the bus. Maybe someone on the bus, hey, does anyone else ever rode a bus? Someone might be talking loudly to themselves, to the bus or their friends about something in the news or politics, right? And express an opinion, you want to dive in and express your free speech with them. It's a one-on-one, live, everyone's in the same space together expressing something. That's free speech. But most of us in Western civilization growing up were probably told something along the lines of, it's not okay to shout fire in a crowded theater. Because free is something that's argued all the time. The military and the fans of the military always like to say freedom isn't free as a way to justify military action or military spending. See? Well, I could say freedom is absolutely free and point it out in this way. If you were put into a prison and your body's tortured, you're still free to think whatever you want to think. You could be in a luxurious tropical resort with free drinks and massages 5 times a day, and you are free to be miserable. There are lines in movies where they say things like, you may torture my body, but you will never have my mind. So, I like to say freedom is absolutely free. No matter what else is happening, whether you're poor or rich, sick or healthy, you are free to think and feel what you want. But when we get into absolute freedom of speech, I've already pointed out here the difference between talking to someone face-to-face, live, or in a public sort of setting. And then we have the of social so-called media. Social media. How many of you were on Facebook when you had to have a .edu email address to be on it? All right. The kids who were on there are in large forces aren't on here anymore, and the ones who are that age now are generally not on here. So in social media, first you have to realize what it is and where we are. And if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd say, spread this before this gets taken down because I'm going to say something. Oh, come on. Facebook here is free. Freedom isn't free? Haha, now we're getting somewhere. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, they're not free. No, there may not be a cost to use it, where you have to spend dollars or euros or Bitcoin to use it. But what's happening is that we are the product. You can watch The Social Dilemma and you'll know what I'm talking about. But the real point is when you're on social media, it's not the public. You are on a private, for-profit platform. In the same way, it may sadden me and others to find out a gay couple can't get their cake baked at a bakery that espouses traditional Judeo-Christian conservative beliefs, but there are other bakeries, I hope. There's just Facebook for being Facebook. So, yes, exactly. Yeah. No, no. I'm not an old fogey. No way. I understand old fogies, but I ain't one. But anyway, back to my point. If you are on a social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, it's not your platform. It's not your platform. It's not even our platform. We may think it is, but it's not. A company has created a platform to attract people to use it for a purpose. Again, watch The Social Dilemma. To monetize us. And one of the things, a slight amplitude here, a little sidebar, Facebook got in a lot of trouble, not only for having ridiculously inflated ideas of what social media ad spending can get you for your dollar, but it also, I think it was Zuckerberg even said this, someone did at some point, look it up for yourself, something along the lines of, we don't take down hate speech because it makes us money. Yeah, hate speech, for instance, just talk that. Anything that says something violent or deadly in a dismissive, anti-social, pathological way on social media to a person or a group. Thing is, in news, the old saying was, if it bleeds, it leads. Yes, that means on the news tonight, the first story is 14 shot at a school today. Stay tuned. All right, people are going to be riveted because we're human beings who are drawn by drama. And the drama of a news story where there's blood, or, the best news stories of all have violence and sex. That's the topic for another video, I promise you, but violence and sex. And if those things that are primal, primitive, animal, that's what makes the news keep their ratings. Because if someone's covering something that's a horrible, horrible tragedy, a physical bloodshed, and, maybe severed heads in a bag on the roadside. Why do joggers always discover it? Maybe it's the joggers. But my point is, those things rivet our attention. And on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, things that grab people's attention makes money. So when Facebook at a time was saying we don't really censor hate speech because it makes us money, that's what it is. Let's go from Google to Facebook. And literally, that's what happens these days. Look for something on Google, it's on Facebook. But I'm going to talk about it in a more essential way. On Google, when you say to anyone else, I'll Google that, the fact that you say that keeps Google in business. Because if people didn't think, I'm going to Google that, Google couldn't tell the world, do advertising with us. Because their advertising revenue model is 90-something% of what makes them them. So Google exists because we say, Google this, right? Well, I saw something on Facebook. Did you see the story? It was on Facebook. And that means if Facebook remains the most popular web traffic and social space, they can monetize us too. Again, watch Social Dilemma. It's not a big conspiracy. It's just business and following the dollar, although it can be chilling to some. So on Facebook, when they monetize us by making a more perfect algorithm of who we are so that advertisers can target exactly who we are from here to here. Right. Watch Social Dilemma, because I want to get to my point here. The point is that when you cry free speech, it really is not what you think it is on a social media platform. You're on someone else's space. YouTube doesn't make videos. Facebook doesn't post what's going on and what it had for lunch. Instagram doesn't show pictures of itself. Twitter doesn't tweet what Twitter is doing. These are platforms that we own because we populate it with our lives. But let's not be blinded here. We are on these platforms, like I am right now, because this video is going out there, because if it gets enough attention and enough whatever, Facebook's algorithm will notice it and say, hey, this thought-provoking guy who puts these thought-provoking videos are attracting people who have a higher household income, and we'll send some more ads at them every time they... I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. That's about how it works. That's exactly how it works. So when Donald Trump is banned from Twitter, there's a good article about 300 some odd employees of Twitter who asked for clarification on it when it happened. You can decide for yourself. That someone at Twitter doesn't like Donald Trump. And if it was me, well, he would have been gone a long time ago. But it's a monetization thing. In other words, if Twitter gets more people to like it because they say they banned him and they get more tweeting about that, it makes it more valuable. If Facebook does the same thing, on and on and on and on and on. And if the president, actually the man, Donald John Trump, a person I found disgusting decades ago as a human being, so surprise, when he ran for president, I didn't like the idea. He, in his always me, always about him, take it to the bank, you can trust it all day long, it's always about him. He might indeed adopt a different social platform and trying to attract 50, 70 million people to that one so he can have an audience and continue to do what he did as president as a private citizen again. Social media is not free speech. Freedom isn't free? It depends how you look at it. But free social media is definitely not free. We pay a price. For ease and convenience, we pay the price of our attention. And when we're on social media, we agree, whether we know it or not, to be monetized for the benefit of advertisers and businesses who scrape through social media platforms to try and find people who will buy what they have. That's okay. I sell things there on Facebook, and you probably do too. So the people who are crying foul that this is a violation of free speech, and now when Biden and Harris are in, we're going to turn into communist nation, which we heard when Carter became president. We heard that when Clinton became president. We heard that when Obama became president. And it hasn't happened. That's why I'm leaving. But the point is, the people who are deathly afraid that the Democrats are in charge, that there will be an erosion of free speech, and we're going to have to be using one world order, politically correct. No, because if you think free speech is social media, it isn't. Call your friends and talk to them. It doesn't have to be public to everybody you follow, does it? Oh, if it does, then you're doing something else. Free speech is important. And in the United States, we guarantee free speech, but not shouting fire in a crowded theater. I don't want to go too far into political, ideology, but shouting fire in a crowded theater, if you know what that means and why it's dangerous, think about it. So free speech is not free. The fact that the president has been banned from one or more is not a violation of free speech. No. And if Facebook actually would go out of business any of you who really like me enough will find some way to find me on the World Wide Web and talk with me if you want to, some other way. We'd find a way. But free speech is, at least in America, will never die, at least in my lifetime. The ability for us to express ourselves. Shouting fire in a crowded theater? That's not free speech. That crosses the line. Free speech that is respectful, free speech that has goodwill, free speech that builds consensus, free speech that can insult but with humor, free speech that respects the mind of the people you're talking to, that's free speech. That's not putting a limit on it. If someone says, I want to be able to insult anyone I want to, and I want to be able to stir people up and call names and be angry and make threats of violence, that's not free speech in a disciplined, organized, democratic, progressive society. No. It's the opposite of free speech. Because if someone's free speech chases people away and reduces their sense of free speech, that's something else. We have free speech, but on a social media platform, it's a business, and we're here only as long as it serves their purposes. Remember that. So if you've got friends on social media, right, yeah. But see, humor doesn't travel very well. You tell a joke about a nationality in that country, they may not like it. You learn a language and try and tell a joke, it may not work. Humor's, if you believe in humor, you got to do it. But you got to also take the responsibility. Some people may not like it. There are comics everywhere. So the point is, if you really like me, talk to me. If you really like me, reach out to me. And I know during a pandemic where we're staying away, that's a bit of a challenge, and we're on social media even more. But social media is not free speech. It's personal expression to monetize. Get that straight. It's personal expression in order to monetize. Free speech is something else. Just look at all the Facebook groups where there's a moderator, right, who always says, here are the rules, here's the guidelines. Right, that's what free speech is. So, I hope that anyone who is on the side of, they kicked Trump off Twitter is learning something. And if any of you are thinking, man, they kicked Trump off of Twitter, that's not right, that you're learning something too. I don't like Donald Trump, but this is a binary political system. It's a 50-50 chance at best that the person that I don't like is going to win. It's crazy binary system. It's nuts. So just realize, I hope everyone understands, get some perspective on what's happening on your phone screen. Get some perspective on what you're seeing on desktop. Get some perspective when you see the news and someone telling about what they saw on Facebook, what they saw on Twitter. It's not free speech. Free speech on social media cannot be denied because it was never free in the first place. Be really good to yourselves. Really good to yourselves. And then be good to each other on these screens, from a distance, in your thoughts. Take care.